what they're going to do is they're going to have the removal of vast reams of immigrants of various status at this point. I mean, many of them undocumented or otherwise, but it doesn't seem like that's the only one, only group getting affected. And then the folks who will fill in their place in the workforce are the ones who want the benefits from SNAP and or Medicaid or something else by fulfilling work requirements. This seems nonsensical. Is there any, I'm trying to ask in good faith, is there any economic logic to that whatsoever?
No, again, starting from, just a starting point, the vast majority of people getting Medicaid are already working. So we're asking, how many are in this group of people who are able-bodied, they're not caring for young kids, they're not elderly, how many are in position to take these agricultural jobs? It's a very, very small number. And then you go, does that make sense? So someone's in, let's say they're living in a city, it's Houston or Dallas or Chicago, whatever it might be. The agricultural jobs aren't in Houston or down, they're out in the countryside. So do we think they're going to be commuting for very low paying jobs? That wouldn't make any sense. Are they going to move to rural areas? That could happen, but you're really talking about minuscule numbers. So the idea you're going to replace the immigrant labor force in agriculture with people being forced to work for Medicaid, it really doesn't make any sense.
Let's talk about the higher education component, which was something that I feel like has gone somewhat undercovered relative to the other changes in the law. I mean, there's a few things I want to get to, but the first thing I want to say is, I mean, some of the legislation repeals Biden-era student loan forgiveness, among some other things. Before we get to the specifics of that, again, I kind of asked about the coherence such that it was discernible of the logic of this law. Part of it just seems like it's a punitive attempt to roll back signature achievements and or things that were popular by previous Democratic presidents, Biden, Obama, you name it. Is that your read as well? Like, there's not really a logic to some of this beyond just undercutting what a previous president of a different party did.
Well, it certainly seems that way. I mean, it's kind of incredible that any president of either party would ever do that. I mean, it's one thing to say, I don't like the policy, but to just say, this president did it, therefore I'm going to reverse it. And, again, Trump's doing that, reversing the policy very explicitly with clean energy, electric vehicles. He's saying that, so it's not ambiguous. But one of the ones that, is totally, well, I'll just say it's very hard to understand, absent kind of this vindictiveness, is cutting back the subsidies that were in the CHIPS Act. This was supposed to support increased domestic manufacture of advanced silicon chips, which ostensibly is what Trump wants. He wants to bring back manufacturing to the U.S. So Biden passed this bill, and it is bipartisan support, by the way, in 2022, and it was tremendously successful. We saw a huge increase in factory construction, particularly in semiconductors, and he's taking away the subsidies there. So it sure looks that way. And again, we all understand that, presidents of different parties have different priorities. They'll push those priorities. But just to reverse policies, just to because you didn't like your predecessors, that doesn't seem like a good direction to go in.
In terms of the specifics here, there's a few things. We don't have to get into all of them, but the one that definitely caught my attention was the move is going to cap the amount of federal loans students can borrow for graduate school to $20,500 a year, with a total limit of $100,000 cumulatively, and it's going to cap loans for professional programs such as medical, dental, or law school at $50K a year, and then a limit of $200,000. Now, as most folks might say, that's still a lot of money, and it is. However, medical school students graduate with an average of more than $250,000 in educational debt, and the cost of medical school programs can certainly exceed $300K at private universities, and more so. I get it. It's a cost savings measure, but can you speak to economically what this will do to the supply of doctors, to the ability of these schools to generate revenue, to the private student loan market? What is the downstream effect as a consequence of this?
Yeah, well, we definitely will see fewer people going to professional schools, probably for college as well. I mean, we'll get to other aspects of the issue in a second, but these caps will make it much more costly, much more risky, I should probably say, for people who aren't from wealthy families to go to professional school. And that's already a big problem, because understandably, if you're from a working class family, the idea of taking on $250,000, $300,000 in debt to go to med school, that's probably very scary. Now, doctors make lots of money, so they could pay it back. So I'm not one to be sympathetic. Oh my God, poor doctor, you have big debt. Because the average pay of a doctor in this country is $360,000 a year. Now they don't all get that. Primary care physicians get much less and all that. But the point is, they could pay back those loans, in general. But still, the prospect of taking on huge debt like that is very scary to people. And already we know people from low, moderate income, even middle income families were very reluctant to go to med school, in part because of the big debt. And that's just going to get worse. So that means fewer doctors, and also, just realistically, fewer doctors from low income, poor areas, Black doctors. And, it's well known that Black doctors are more likely to serve Black areas. Again, we may like that or not like that. That's the reality. So if we have fewer Black doctors, Black areas will be more underserved. So to my view, that's a really bad story. And, again, I don't know what attention the administration is paying to this issue, but it doesn't seem like it's going in the right direction.
Is there any sense of like what the cost savings are here? They seem trivial to me, yet the punitive effect is actually not trivial.
I haven't seen the numbers that they put out. They're probably too low to even, figure into anything. I mean, we're probably talking about millions. Again, you and me, million might be a lot of money, but in terms of a federal budget of $7 trillion a year, it's not a lot of money. So it really is just punitive, both to the students who, will opt not to go to professional school, go to college, and also obviously the schools, because there is a source of revenue for them. They'll get less money, and whether that's intentional or not, I don't know, but that is the effect.
If you could indulge me for a moment, like what would be a more rational policy that the government should adopt relative to student loans, both undergraduate and then postgraduate?
Well, two things I'd say. One is it would make a lot of sense to try and reduce the cost of college, so, you didn't involve this big debt burden, so that would be a great thing. That would mean more subsidies, probably restructuring. There'd be a lot of issues there, but I think that would be a great thing. The other thing, and this is something Biden did and got almost no credit for, was to have an income-based repayment plan. That goes back actually to Clinton. Obama made it more generous and Biden made it considerably more generous. Very few people were aware of it, and Trump's eviscerating it. I don't know where it stands, the exact formula now, but under Biden's plan, if you made less than a single person making less than $33,000 a year would owe nothing. And then you paid, I think it was 8% on income above 33,000. I mean, it's a more complex formula, kids, and there's other issues. But basically, it made the loan repayment very affordable. If you're a high income person, if you end up making a six-figure income, you can repay the loans, and that's fine. That's great. But if it turns out, things didn't turn out for you, you didn't get the job you expected, you're working at Starbucks, whatever, you don't have a big burden. And I think that's a really great thing, because it's telling people you don't have this big risk. If you go to college, ideally it works out, you get a good paying job that you like. That's the story we like to see. But we know sometimes doesn't turn out that way, and you still then aren't stuck with this huge debt for your whole life.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Please consider giving this a thumbs up as well as liking it. And if you want more of my politics coverage, go to the link in the description box for my Substack. Yes, go to my Substack. We might put a QR code on the screen here as well. Tons of exclusives, interviews, chat functionality with a whole different community over there. Tons of fun stuff. Give it a look.